Good day. Emmanuel, God with us. Everything that I want to share comes from my heart by God being with us. In our last video, I talked about how I became a Christian. On this video, I'm going to share with you how He showed Himself in every situation we faced. After becoming a believer, it took about 4 months for Dad to kick us out of the house, myself and my brother, who's 15. We moved in with my sister. My sister had to go to court and get custody of my brother. And it was a tough time. Yet God was blessing us with safety and security being in the home of my sister at that time. I joined the military, I joined the Marines. When I went to boot camp, God gave me my first bunk partner. He was studying to be a Catholic priest, and he wanted to have a family and get married, but he didn't know how to fight. I knew how to fight and being a survivor growing up. So we were a perfect match because all I knew was about the Bible was Jesus. So halfway through boot, he taught me a lot. My bunk partner taught me about how to trust God. God answers prayer when you talk to Him. Just be honest, be real. The Bible says you have not because you ask not. And sometimes we ask not amiss, meaning we're not asking for the right things. So during that time, God showed Himself immediately to me that He was giving me a teacher. And then another thing that God was showing through boot camp, I had a drill instructor who is an atheist, and I really respect him deeply. He was a good Marine, hardcore. I wanted to be like him, but he kept on pushing on me and pushing on me, and I didn't understand at the time until he told me one day when they would give 10-minute smoker breaks, and I would take that time to read my Bible behind my bunk, behind my coat in private. And he would show up, and I would look up at him, and he would punch me once in the stomach and say, give that to God, that's for God. And I was like, man, I can't get away from being beat. So anyhow, that went on for about 7 weeks. And then one day on a Sunday, he was on duty, and instead of giving a 10-minute break, he gave a 20-minute break for the smokers. And then he said this. His wife came to him and said, you either give up boot camp or you give up on the family. And he said, he gave us a teaching. He said, family's more important. And he's going to go with his wife. And he said, never forget that. Family first, then the Corps. And he gave us 20-minute break. So I went behind my bunk, and I was reading my Bible, and I looked up, and he was standing there again. And I thought, here goes Daddy, a granddaddy beating, because that's the last time with him. And he held his hand out to shake it. Now, as recruits in boot camp, you don't shake hands to drill instructors. Drill instructor is there to teach you. We are the students. There is no personal touch. But he held his hand out, and he looked at me, and he said, shake it. It's okay. And I shook his hand, and he said, keep up what you're doing, because I see God in you. Man, I felt like Superman at that point. I had the living God just being in me, just because I asked him to talk to me. I asked him to guide me, give me strength while I'm going through boot camp, give me wisdom. And here he gave me a teacher as a bunk partner, and now he gave me a drill instructor to watch me. And I thought, I can't make this up. I mean, this is awesome. That's how God was starting to speak with me as a brand new Christian. And my heart had been broken in so many ways, but God was healing it. I was never alone. I knew His Spirit was with me. He was doing things like that to remind me that He was there. One last thing about boot camp, and I'll close with this. About the 8th week, we received a new recruit from the brig, from jail. He had beaten up 3 drill instructors. He was a Golden Glove in boxing. And instead of kicking him out of the Marine Corps, they kept him because they figured if he was a fighter, I mean, if they could train him right, he'd be a great fighter for the Marines. And so guess who they gave him to? Me. And I'm sitting there like, oh, geez, okay. And so I asked him the first day, where are you from and all that. He cursed me out. And I'm like, whatever. So about 3 days later, he asked me where I was from. And I replied the same as he did the first time when I asked him, and he laughed. He goes, "No, really, where are you from?" I said, "Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania." He goes, "Where?" And I said, "What's wrong with you, man?" He goes, "No, I'm from Sarver." I'm like, "You got to be kidding me. That's 5 miles away from my home." And he said, "You're my brother." He says, "You're going to be the best partner ever." Well, I just enjoyed the last part of having somebody from home. And that's another blessing. I consider that as a gift from God. Well, on graduation day, and I have pictures of this in my boot camp book that we purchased, he and I were squad leaders as we graduated. What an honor. So that was the beginning of my walk with God. And I'll close off with this. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. If you memorize this, God will bless you and remind you of it. It says, "Trust in the Lord in all your ways, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, tell him, and he will guide your paths." And I can say for the last 50 years, every time I struggled or I just had an issue, God was there and he answered my prayers. And he will answer yours if you just give your heart to God and just be real. You know, I'm trying not to preach, and I don't like cameras, but I'm sharing my heart, and this is just the beginning. I got some really powerful things I'll share the next time about the miracles of God in my life, not just for me, but for others as well. So have a great day. God be with you, and just spend a little time in his word and talk to him and share what your needs are and ask him to speak with you. Have a great day.